Hey, Congressman Baird, you had just asked the question, where's the Iraqi George Washington? And I think that's part of the problem, is that we keep thinking of Iraq on American terms, on U.S. terms, and we should stop thinking about that and think about Iraq for Iraqis.
I did it because the analogy was being made.
But that's the problem. We come up with American type of analogies.
I did it.
Thinking of Iraq as Iraq, and thinking of the problems of Iraq as Iraqi problems. And then only then can we start to think about how to help the Iraqis, rather than trying to give them benchmarks and tell them what to do to make things better.
I absolutely agree with you. But I would suggest that many in this room tonight are doing exactly what you're saying, and I would say George Bush did exactly what you're saying. It is not so simple here in Olympia to know exactly what the Iraqi people want. The reason I went to the region, and you can poo-poo it and say you weren't there on the ground enough, I was there as much as I could be in the time frame that I had, and I met with a heck of a lot of people of my choosing, not the Pentagon's choosing. And I listened to them. I actually listened. You watch the damn hearings with Petraeus? Senator after senator after senator, our presidential candidate, 7-minute speeches, no questions. Here's the point. I think you're right that we need to look at it from an Iraqi solution. But I will tell you, when I was there, it was never just get out now as that simple from their perspective. We talk about letting the Iraqis, I'm talking to elected representatives over there. Now you may say, look, I'm not representing you, they're not representing their people, but I spoke with the elected representatives of the Iraqi government, and these are the things they said.
Now, I have given you the benefit of the doubt. I listened to all the interviews that I could find. I read all the interviews and all the statements that you've made concerning your stance on Iraq. And I tried to find something concrete that you could say, show that there was progress being made. And I couldn't find it. All I found were anecdotes.
No, I'll give you concrete. I'll give you concrete. Now, you can dismiss as an anecdote. I guess if you're going to say a survey is more concrete. A U.S. colonel who looked me right in the eye.
I was about to mention that colonel.
Is that an anecdote?
I was about to mention that colonel because I know you keep mentioning this unnamed colonel who says that where he has been at, they've been getting fewer attacks against them. I know that. I was about to mention that because I have listened to as much as I can.
But that's not substantive to you?
And that is an anecdote. I will show you why it's not substantive.
You're going to have statistics. Petraeus shows the statistics.
This is not a statistic. These are soldiers who have been killed. These are not statistics, right? And I got these from the Department of Defense. And these are U.S. military and coalition fatalities. And you mentioned this colonel who...
do you not believe he exists?
I do believe he exists, and who has experienced fewer attacks against his troops. But if we look at this, we see that the number of attacks have not increased in general, and that still, the same amount or more soldiers are dying right now. In fact, if you compare it to the same time last year, every single month this year, it has risen. And so, yes, I'm glad that this colonel is experiencing fewer attacks, but the exact same number or more soldiers are dying anyway. That's why you cannot use that anecdote, because that anecdote is not representative of Iraq as a whole.
It's not that simple. Because this is how war works. You guys can't get your act together. The biggest criticism of Petraeus was, and I was there, the biggest criticism of Petraeus was, yes, most of the people actually acknowledge there have been some gains. You may disagree, but most of the reports say in certain areas there have been gains. Other areas, Petraeus himself acknowledged that. Petraeus acknowledged it when I was in Iraq the first time, he acknowledged it the second time. He said it in the hearing. What the big criticism was like the Iraqi political leaders can't seem to get their act together, and the military solution on the ground isn't enough. We don't conduct ourselves here, in our own United States Congress, in this meeting tonight, in ways that are conducive to solving problems. The reality, exactly right, we're not. And we're not getting killed, and we're not killing the other side, and we're not threatening. You guys can unelect me. It's your right under the Constitution. I died to defend it.
Our soldiers have been killed in our name.
You have a right to have an election. Over there, when people try to compromise, they get killed by their own people. Yes, that's how forces work. You secure one area, and then you move into another. Petraeus, at the beginning of this, said, we will sustain more troop casualties. He said it. He predicted it. Somebody earlier said something about, we don't have anybody in the administration that speaks Arabic. Yes, we do. Petraeus and Crocker. Crocker is proficient in Farsi and Arabic. Crocker was there when the towers bombed in Lebanon and tried to dig people out with his bare hands. He's the best we got. He's damn good. We did it. Bremer was not. Bremer was a terrible error, a consequential error. But we have some people there now who are much better than the people we had before.
So there's Petraeus, and I'm glad you mentioned Petraeus because I have here this graph here. The blue lines here is the slideshow presentation that Petraeus gave to show that there were fewer civilian deaths, Iraqi civilian deaths. This is what he showed Congress. He might have even showed you when you were in Iraq that the number of Iraqi deaths have been declining. Now, at the same time that Petraeus was saying this, here's a red. This red line represents the chart that was provided by the Pentagon, same time, September 2007, in a pamphlet or booklet entitled Measuring Stability and Security in Iraq. And you can see that their numbers are kind of different. It's going up instead of going down. And so, I don't even actually trust either of these numbers because the methodology is not revealed. The actual exact numbers aren't even revealed. All we know is we see these charts, and we're supposed to be convinced by it.
What would you trust? What would you trust?
I would trust something more. I would trust if I had the methodology, if we knew the methodology, and we have to do some extrapolation. We can't just say, oh, all the numbers we just count, and that's how many people are dead. No, we have to extrapolate. That's why the Lancet report was valuable. And we're not even and I'm fine if people don't believe in the Lancet report, but at least read it. Read it and just examine the methodology. And we're not doing that. We started out saying, we don't do body counts. All of a sudden, we bring up contradictory numbers and say, oh, yeah, we're making progress. And so, and even mainstream news such as McClatchy, around the same time that you were saying that we're making progress, is saying we're not making progress. When you were in Iraq, after you returned from Iraq a week later, 7 soldiers wrote an op-ed to the New York Times. I know you read it, yeah. And they say, we're not making progress. And they put a lot of really important points there, which I haven't heard you say. Now, instead, you say, give us 6 more months. And tonight, I also heard you say a couple of times, this is our last chance. I compiled a list of all the times people said, give us 6 more months, or this is the last chance. And since 2003,
I've compiled a list of the numbers of times you said that.
Okay, great nation needs to fix things. We can fix it with reparations. We need to go back, do reparations, and admit more Iraqi refugees. And speaking of Iraqi refugees, I know a few Iraqi refugees who would love to come to the United States. They're stuck in Jordan in a very precarious situation. I would love to talk to you about helping these Iraqi refugees. They're not the only ones, but a few at a time help. Anything helps. So I'd love to talk to you about helping some Iraqi refugees come
My
to the
office
United
would be
States.
happy to try to do that.